This clip is from This Week with George Stephanopoulos, and basically just confirms, how Hillary Clinton likes to double talk and dance around issues. I'm going to play this particular clip, and I'm going to break it into two segments. So the first one is her confrontation with Bernie Sanders on a couple of issues.
You had your own debate with Bernie Sanders this week as well, and you challenged him to come up with evidence that contributions from Wall Street ever influenced your positions. He and his team have circulated the charge from Elizabeth Warren, who said you changed your position on the bankruptcy bill back in 2001 because of contributions. Here's what Senator Warren had to say.
One of the first bills that came up after she was Senator Clinton was the bankruptcy bill.
And?
She voted in favor of it. She has taken money from the groups, and more to the point, she worries about them as a constituency.
How do you respond to that charge?
Well, I'm glad you asked me about it, because this is one of these, innuendo, insinuation charges that the Sanders campaign is engaging in.
Well, that was Senator Warren, though.
But if you had played the entire quote, what you would have heard her say, she and I worked together in 2000 to stop a bankruptcy bill that we both believed was very harmful. When I got to the Senate in 2001, one of the first big votes there was on a version of the bankruptcy bill, and I was deluged by women's groups and children's advocates groups to do everything I could to make sure that child support and women's precarious financial situation in case of divorce or not being able to get the kind of funding they needed from a partner or a spouse in bankruptcy would not be endangered, and it was. That bill was making it a very low priority. So I did go to work on behalf of all of these women's groups and children's groups because they needed a champion, and I got that bill changed, and in return, it had nothing to do with any money whatsoever, and I resent deeply any effort by the Sanders campaign to so imply.
But
it had to do with trying to get a deal
what...
that would protect women. But now let me finish, George, because this has been bandied about, and I just want to set the record straight. And so then, 3 years later, part of what Senator Warren said you played, you didn't play the whole thing because we'd been allies. I faced a tough decision. And I stood up for women and children. I went to the Senate floor, said that was exactly what I was doing. Then the bill did not pass. It never became law. And then when the next bill came up, 2005, women's issues were taken care of because I had made that a point back in 2001. And so then I was against that bill. I didn't get a chance to actually vote against it because Bill was in the hospital having a heart procedure, but I put a statement out, I was against it. So I'm happy to set this record straight, and I really want to once again call out the Sanders campaign, which claims they like to run a positive campaign, but they have been quite artful in raising questions and trying to cast doubts about my record. And I really am not going to sit and take it anymore.
Now, she's full of shit because she's trying to have it both ways. She said that she added an amendment, in protection of a minority, and she was going to vote for the bill because she got her protection in for women that were involved in being hurt by divorce and bankruptcy. Okay. Somebody explain to me how that is any different than Bernie Sanders on the gun control bill voting for it because it had protections for the mom and pop shops, which he was advocating for as far as gun sales are concerned. And he indicated that he was not advocating for the gun manufacturers, but he had a decision to make. So she's, on one hand, she's trying to use that excuse that she was advocating for a smaller group but wasn't for the overall bill. But at the same time, she's attacking Bernie Sanders when he said he did the same thing. So she's full of shit. All right, but anyway, let's go into the second part of that. Oh, and just in case, Elizabeth Warren, I swear, I just hope that she finally comes out and declares for somebody, because Warren declaring on Bernie Sanders' side would probably help to put him over the top. But we're going to jump back into this.
You know, I have a public record. I have never, ever been influenced in a view or a vote by anyone who has given me any kind of funding.
Not only
so
in that
I'm
clip,
just going to keep setting the record straight.
But in her book, Senator Warren said the bill was essentially the same, but Hillary Rodham Clinton was not. Big banks were now part of Senator Clinton's constituency. She wanted their support. They wanted hers, including a vote in favor of that awful bill.
Look, I have the greatest respect for Senator Warren. As I said, we did work together. I faced a choice. I could have said to the women who have been my advocates for 30 years, I'm sorry, I'm now in the Senate, but you know, I can't help you. Nobody else was helping them. They were desperate to get help. They were afraid that child support was going to be below credit card debt, that they were going to be really left out and left behind and badly damaged. I could have said, you know, I can't do that because somebody in 10 years might say that, you know, something else was going on. That's not the way I work. So they came to me. I said, this is outrageous. I went to the floor. I lobbied to get a change. And as part of getting that change from both Democrats and Republicans who were leading that legislation, they said, if we change this bill at the last minute to take account of these issues you're raising about women and children, which they had not clearly made a priority before I showed up, then, you know, you have to say you'll vote for it. It was, you know, look, that's what you have to do. I swallowed hard. I said, okay.
See, so she's full of shit. So she decided that she was going to advocate for the smaller group while at the same time screwing the larger group. What kind of sense does that make? I mean, it's absolutely fucking ridiculous. What she should have done was to try to get a separate bill dealing with the women, dealing with bankruptcies, etc., and get that separate bill passed so that no matter what, they were going to be covered, and then, you know, doing what she needed to do on the overall bankruptcy bill. But no, she decides that she's going to fuck everybody on the larger subject so that she can, quote unquote, give some protection to women on a smaller front. She's full of crap. Anyway, let's go into the next section.
It was also the case it didn't get passed. So I got what I needed into the bill. It stayed in the bill, even in the bad version that I posed in 2005. So thanks for the opportunity to set the record straight.
In the debate the other night, you said you'd look into whether or not to release the transcripts of your speeches to financial groups. Have you made up your mind?
Yeah, you know, here's another thing I want to say. Let everybody who's ever given a speech to any private group, under any circumstances, release them. We'll all release them at the same time. You know, I don't mind being you know, the subject in Republican debates, the subject in the Democratic primary. That kind of goes with the territory. I've been around long enough. But at some point, you know, these rules need to apply to everybody. And there are a bunch of folks, including, you know, my opponent who's given, you know, speeches to groups, and people on the other side who've given speeches to groups. If this is now going to be a new standard, so then it should apply to everybody, and then I'll be happy to look into it further.
She's full of shit. Okay. Bernie Sanders has called for her to release her speeches where she's making like mega money from special interest groups, i.e. Wall Street. Okay, she would be within her rights if he had given speeches out making mega bucks somewhere, which obviously he hasn't because he's been a sitting U.S. senator for a long time. So she can't make that same claim against him. Now she's trying to suck in the Republicans, claiming that, well, she really doesn't have to consider it unless the Republicans consider it. That's a bunch of bullshit. She either says yes, she's going to give up the transcripts, or no, she's not. And basically what she's saying is no, she's not, but she's trying to hide behind, well, everybody else isn't, so why should I? That's bullshit. She's being asked to give up the transcripts of her speeches so that we could see exactly what she got paid for, and she's not making that same claim specifically against Bernie Sanders. And if she is, she needs to come out publicly, especially when they were on the debate stage, and say it, because his answer would have been, I haven't given out any speeches to special interest groups that I've gotten paid for. And if you believe that I have, basically just name them. Anyway, there's no way I can vote for Clinton. I hope Sanders cleans her clock in New Hampshire, and people really take a close look, especially in South Carolina, and especially in the minority community, to see this woman for what she really is. She's a panderer, and she really hasn't done anything to deserve the minority vote, especially in South Carolina.